Hey guys, Hunter here with another Raid 101 episode. In our previous videos, we've referenced champion stats a few times, even explained some of them. But I think it's about time we delve a bit more into this topic and discuss things that aren't immediately obvious. If you've played RPGs before, then the general idea should be clear enough. Stats are attributes that affect the performance of your champions. Each stat is responsible for something specific, and you can check out what it is in the champion index at any point. As you can see, it's pretty clear-cut. HP or health points is how much damage the champion can take. Attack determines the champion's attack power, meaning the damage of most skills. Defense mitigates incoming damage. Speed determines how quickly their turn meter fills. Check out our turn meter video to get the details of that. Critical rate determines the chances of the champion's attacks landing as critical hits. Critical damage goes hand in hand with the previous stat and increases the damage a skill does if it lands as a critical hit, just like it says on the tin. Debuff resistance and debuff accuracy are special, and we'll dedicate a whole video to them soon. But for now, all you need to know is that they allow your champions to successfully apply or resist debuffs. Some of these stats serve multiple functions. For example, defense or speed can also impact the damage of some skills. But in general, that's the purpose of each stat. If you strip away all bonuses and look at a champion without any equipment, you'll see their base stats. Base stats are what the champion has by default. They increase with level, rank, and ascension, so making sure you upgrade a champion in every facet is key to helping them reach their full potential. But the base stats are just that, the base. There are many ways to boost them far beyond this baseline. At the moment, the main way of boosting a champion's base stats are artifacts, Great Hall upgrades, arena tier, bonuses, and masteries. Artifacts and accessories will also get their own dedicated videos, but the summary is pretty basic. Each individual artifact increases a variety of stats on its own, while equipping full sets brings special bonuses. The Great Hall allows you to upgrade specific stats across every champion in an affinity by spending your arena medals. And then you have the arena itself. Maintaining your place in each arena tier brings global bonuses to the HP, attack, and defense stats of all your champions, and it applies across all game modes. These bonuses get pretty big as you progress through the tiers, so the arena is always worth investing in. Finally, some masteries also provide a direct boost to your champion's stats. There are a multitude of ways to improve on your champion's base stats, and they all stack and make a difference. Make sure you maximize each of these avenues of improvement to have the best shot at success. Now we've covered the absolute basics, let's dive a little deeper into how a few of these stats actually take effect when battles take place. Namely, how attack connects to damage a skill might do, how your defense affects that damage, and how your HP isn't really your HP. Sounds exciting? Good. Let's start. To begin, you have to know that each skill has its own multiplier that decides the output of that skill. Usually, this decides the damage output, but other skills also have multipliers. For example, a healing skill also has a multiplier that decides how much the skill heals by. These multipliers can depend on various stats, like your champion's max HP, their current HP, their defense stat, and more. But the damage of most skill depends on a champion's attack stat. For the most common multipliers, they're always shown under their skill descriptions. The general idea is like this. Let's say your champion has a 1000 attack and the skill's multiplier is 2. 2 times 1000 is 2000, so that skill will output 2000 damage. This is the raw output, but there are other factors that come into play too. This number hasn't yet taken into account the effect of the attack landing as a weak, strong, or critical hit, where the amount will either be decreased or increased depending on the outcome. Then, of course, if you do get a critical hit, you'll also benefit from any bonus crit damage you've stacked on your champion. But let's throw that out the window right now and work in a vacuum. We're talking about basic damage. So again, 1000 multiplied by 2 is 2000. 2000 damage, right? That's the basic calculation for how much damage the skill outputs. But the actual damage an enemy champion receives will be different. Now, there are some buffs that reduce the damage a champion takes, and there are unique skill mechanics or special situations that might also affect it. But broadly speaking, the amount of damage a champion receives from an attack will depend on their defense stat. A champion's defense stat mitigates the incoming damage, so the amount of HP a champion loses is not always equal to the amount of damage a skill outputs. That's an important distinction to make, so I'll say it again. Damage output is not equal to HP loss. Let's talk a bit about how damage mitigation works. Going back to our initial example, we're putting out 2,000 damage. It's not a realistic scenario, but for the sake of example, let's say the enemy champion had 0 defense. In this case, there's no defense stat there to mitigate or to reduce the damage, so the enemy champion will eat all 2,000 damage from that skill. Well, around 2,000 anyway. There's a random component in the big damage formula that's used everywhere, so the same attack used against the same target under the same circumstances is going to have a bit of variance. That's normal. With 0 defense, a champion with 1,000 HP would be killed by an attack that does 1,000 points of damage, since every point of damage would convert to a single health point. He'd be knocked down to 0 HP and knocked out of the fight. But this is where the enemy's defense stat comes in. Defense mitigates that damage, meaning that the damage a champion takes is reduced according to how much defense they have. In reality, this is where 1,000 damage output from a skill doesn't equal 1,000 damage received and 1,000 HP lost by the target, and this ties into your champion's HP and defense. If a champion has 10,000 HP, it doesn't mean that the enemy needs to do 10,000 damage from their skills to defeat them. They actually need to do a whole lot more, and this is down to a champion's effective HP. Effective HP comes from a combination of a champion's raw, flat HP value, like 10,000, and their defense stat. Their effective HP is the amount of damage, given their total HP, and damage mitigation from their defense stat that it would take to reduce their HP to 0. The higher both of these stats, the higher the champion's effective HP. This is because the higher the champion's defense stat, the more damage is needed to take each point of health from that champion. This is why if you pit 2 champions against each other with hugely different defense stats but similar HP, one will take far fewer hits to kill than the other. Let's take a high defense champion like Templar and pit them against a fast, powerful attacker like the Conqueror. Templar has more def by default, so even if we give Conqueror a little bit more HP than Templar with some artifacts, assuming we don't touch defense, Conqueror will still take less damage to kill than Templar would. Why? Because higher defense results in higher damage reduction, meaning that for every point of Templar's HP, the attacking champion needs to deal more damage. Let me try and clarify this with a couple of examples so you can see how it works. Now, when we talk about damage reduction, we talk about it in percentages. So let's see how much defense you need to reduce the damage taken by a certain amount. To reduce the damage by 15%, a champion needs 290 defense. That's incredibly low and is easy to reach even without artifacts. But let's scale it up. To reduce damage by 30%, a champion needs 655 defense. If you're quick with math, you might have realized that the numbers don't quite add up, and you'd be right. And so are the numbers. This is because damage reduction through defense doesn't scale linearly. This means the first 15% of damage reduction costs you fewer defense points than the next 15%. The same applies to the next 15% of damage reduction, and so on and so forth. You've probably heard of this, and it's called diminishing returns. If we were to plot this on a graph, damage reduction from defense would fall on a curve, not a flat line. And yeah, graphs are boring, so what does this mean for real humans? Basically, after a certain point, there's no need to invest in defense as the increase in damage reduction would be so little. Then it's best to start investing in other stats as well. You'll need to do some testing to find out where that point is. It's all about striking a balance. Adding to these basic mechanics, there's also a property some skills have called ignore def, or ignore defense. Like the name suggests, it ignores a portion of the target's defense and boosts the damage you do. It works in a very simple way, but is an incredibly powerful property. If you have a skill that ignores 50% of the target's defense, it effectively reduces that target's current defense by 50% at the moment of the attack. If we take the same situation as above when it comes to the damage calculation, the skill will act as if those champions only had 50% of their defense. In this case, 145 defense instead of 290, or 328 instead of 655. Because damage reduction isn't linear, it won't increase damage by 50%, but it's still a huge difference in damage. Keep an eye out for champions that completely ignore defense and see how much of a difference it makes. There's a reason those skills are so rare. The mechanics of debuff accuracy and debuff resistance are another point of confusion that we've noticed. Just like the effect of defense has on battles, accuracy and resistance also have a huge impact on how battles play out. So much so, in fact, that we feel that relationship deserves its own video where we'll cover everything connected to buffs, debuffs, accuracy, and resistance. For now, we'll just lay out the basics. As their names suggest, debuff accuracy helps your champions land debuffs, while debuff resistance helps them resist debuffs that enemies try to apply to them. Both these stats are flat values, not percentages, and don't max out at 100. And in general, it's not the value of your accuracy that decides whether a debuff will be applied or not. It's the difference between the attacker's accuracy and the enemy's resistance. It goes without saying, but the higher that difference is, the more the odds are skewed in your favor or that of the enemy. And there's one golden rule. If your debuffs aren't landing, build more accuracy. Keep an eye out for our resistance and accuracy video for a geek out and breakdown of the mechanics. We'll try to get that up as soon as possible. Found this episode useful? Hit like and subscribe. We'll be delving into many other features with the same thoroughness and love for detail. Take care, guys. See you soon.